Good morning, everyone, again.
Good morning.
I have never before, ever, preached out of the book of Ecclesiastes. And actually, if you talk to most pastors, I think you're going to find that most pastors have never or have almost never preached out of Ecclesiastes. You can ask Susan and she will tell you, this has not been a fun week for me. Ecclesiastes is one of the biggest downers in the entire Bible. It starts, well, we'll get to how it starts, but it asks a lot of the deep questions and really comes down to saying, what does anything matter? And when you spend an entire week focusing on what, if anything, matters, that can be a depressing week. So, what is the purpose? You know, life is kind of a zero-sum game, so what is the purpose? Some of you will be surprised, but most of you, I think, probably recognize or know that I am an Eagle Scout. And in order to get your Eagle Scout, you have a service project you've got to do for your community. Various things. My particular service project, I lived at this time in Highland Falls, New York. It's a small city on the Hudson, about an hour's train ride north of New York City. Pretty little town. It's in the Highlands of New York. And, of course, a lot of revolutionary and pre-revolutionary relics in that thing. I one time crashed my car into a wall that was built before the Revolutionary War. So, just shows you how old those things are. My Eagle Scout project was fixing up a cemetery. It was an old cemetery out in the country that I don't know when the last time anyone had been in it before we got there. Headstones were laying on their side. A few headstones were cracked and crashed. It was completely overgrown. Most of the wall around it had crumbled and was falling apart. And so we worked to go through and mow the lawn, get the grass weed-eated, get it looking presentable, standing the stones back up, repairing the stones we could repair. We did some research on the names of the people who were buried in the cemetery. Some were buried in the 1600s. And for the life of me, I can't remember a single name in that cemetery. I put the better part of 2 or 3 months into that, and I don't remember their names. Who were they? What were their dreams, their fears, their hopes? And it got me to thinking, this week, as I read through Ecclesiastes, about this idea that we have that we might be remembered. So I've got some names for you. Who here knows who Elias Howe was? Elias Howe, anyone raise your hand? Elias, you know Elias Howe? I'm impressed. The movie Help by the Beatles was dedicated to Elias Howe because he invented the sewing machine in 1845. I don't know why John, Paul, and George decided that he needed a movie, but they decided it, and so there you go. What about Ezra Sutton? Anyone know who Ezra Sutton was? Ezra Sutton was the person who hit the first and second home runs in Major League Baseball history. He played for the Cleveland Forest Cities. Yeah, I never heard of them either. Last one for you, 3 names. Moses Horowitz, Jerome Horowitz, and Lawrence Fine. Anyone know them? That would be Mo, Curly, and Larry. Those are the We tend to, over time, forget things. I know that my great-grandfather's name was John Sterry Scott. I know everyone called him Pop. I know that when my dad was 6, he could still pick my dad up with one hand when he was in his 80s. He had been a fireman for the railroad. Now, fireman for the coal railroad meant that he took a shovel and moved 2 tons of coal every day from a cart into the boiler to make sure that the engine kept running. That's all I really know about John Sterry Scott Ingle. You go to funerals. Some funerals are large. Some are small, 1 or 2 people. Some nobody attends to. And so it brings up the question, what's the point? I mean, if I will mean nothing in 1,000 years, do I really mean anything now? And I'm sure that y'all can relate to this. It's a fundamental existential question. What is the meaning of life? There have been many, many people who have answered it. My favorite answer is 42. 42 is the ultimate answer to life, the universe, and everything. The person who gave that answer, though, just said we don't know the real question. And if we knew the real question, 42 would make sense. Monty Python did an entire movie about the meaning of life. And I'll tell you, in the last 2 or 3 minutes, they actually get pretty close to the right answer. One of the things we hear people talk about all the time is the meaning of life is to do God's will. Now that last one deserves some consideration. Because we have to ask ourselves, what does it even mean? People ask that all the time. People say it all the time like it's just something we should all know. But what does it mean to do the will of God? Does anyone really know? Well, the Bible does give us some answers there, thankfully. It's not just a glorious paperweight. It's not just a book to give away to forgotten ministries, although please do. But it does have some answers. Now, I'll tell you, when you read Ecclesiastes, the answers don't start off sounding all that great. The preacher introduces himself. In the first 3 verses of the book, he says, "The words of the teacher, son of David, king of Jerusalem." Meaningless. Meaningless, says the teacher. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. What do people gain from all their labors in which they toil under the sun? Doesn't that book just make you want to read more, huh? Doesn't that just grab you and pull you in, get you excited and happy to hear that everything is meaningless? The actual Hebrew word there, sometimes we'll hear it translated as vanity. King James says, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. But the actual Hebrew word goes back to vapors or to mist. You know how on a cold morning you step outside and you go, oh, and you see that cloud form there? And it's real, and you can see it, and you can interact with it to some degree, but you can't touch it. You can't control it. It's fleeting. It's beyond you. That's what he's getting onto. It's something that is ethereal, something you can't control, can't contain, can't catch. Everything is just vapors. It's meaningless. It's a vain effort. What do we even get out of this, he asks. In verse 3, he said, what do people gain from all their labors at which they toil under the sun? Now, the word there translated as gain, King James translates as what profiteth a man, but it's the same Hebrew word, yitron. Yitron means the bottom line profit. This is a word from the economic world, probably stolen from Arabic, actually. And what this word talks about is when you take all that you put into it and remove all that you take out of it, what is left? You know, good business, I should put in, $8 worth of time, effort, and materials, and hopefully get at least $1 back out of it. Profit. At the end. But the preacher or the teacher, the actual Hebrew word kohelet, doesn't really tell us what we're going to get out of it. Actually, he does tell us what we're going to get out of it. I don't know why I said that. He does tell us very clearly what we're going to get out of it. And what we're going to get out of it is nothing. You don't take anything with you. You come into the world naked, someone wraps you in a cloth, and even that you don't necessarily get to take with you on. Yeah, you take it to the grave, but you don't take it beyond. It's almost like it's meaningless. If you're not going to get any profit, why try? We jump to chapter 8. Let me go ahead and read verses 8:16 through 9:10 for you. When I applied my mind to know wisdom and to observe the labor that is done on earth, people getting no sleep day and night, then I saw all that God has done. No one can comprehend what goes on under the sun. Despite all their efforts to search it out, no one can discover the meaning. Even if the wise claim they know, they cannot really comprehend it. So I reflected on all this and concluded that the righteous and the wise and what they do are in God's hand. But no one knows whether love or hate awaits them. All share a common destiny. The righteous and the wicked, the good and the bad, the clean and the unclean, those who offer sacrifices and those who do not. As it is with the good, so with the sinful. As it is with those who take oaths, so with those who are afraid to take them. This is the evil in everything that happens under the sun. The same destiny overtakes all. The hearts of people, moreover, are full of evil, and there is madness in their hearts while they live. And afterwards they join the dead. Anyone who is among the living has hope. Even a live dog is better off than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, and even their name is forgotten. Their love, their hate, and their jealousies have long since vanished. Never again will they have a part in anything that happens under the sun. Go, eat your food with gladness, and drink your wine with a joyful heart, for God has already approved what you do. Always be clothed in white, and always anoint your head with oil. Enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of your meaningless life that God has given you under the sun. All your meaningless days. For this is your lot in life, and in your toilsome labors under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might, for in the realm of the dead, where you are going, there is neither working nor planning, nor knowledge nor wisdom. This is the kind of guy you want at a party, isn't it? Makes everybody happy. Well, the teacher, the preacher, the king, whoever the writer is, he tells us, when I applied my mind to know wisdom, he realized something. He realized, I cannot know. God's ways are a mystery even to the wisest, most dutifully devoted, studying person. You can stay up all day and all night and you'll never figure it out. So there's no sense in trying to figure it out. He then goes on to say that one thing that we all get in the end is death. Some of us, while we're still alive. It goes back to that saying that many of you may have heard, a rising tide lifts all boats, or death is a respecter of no persons. He used his wisdom when he came to the conclusion that we're all going to die, and not necessarily peacefully or when we're ready. And not necessarily because we earned it. Throughout the book of Ecclesiastes, he's going to point out over and over, good people who have done everything right occasionally will get the short end of the stick. And bad people who have done nothing right will occasionally come out on top. And we don't know why God allows things like that. And we don't need to worry about it. Amen. That is not ours to worry about. All we know is that we're going to all wind up you're like me and refuse to have a funeral. And this can induce a bit of madness in humanity. You know, madness in things like riots. Madness in things like midlife crisis. It can induce madness in the form of theft, lust, drugs, accumulation of things. And just when you're convinced that this guy is the ultimate downer, he finally has some hope for us. He tells us, you know, it's better to be a living dog than a dead lion. Now, in the age when this was being written, dogs were not very well respected. They were tended to be those wild animals that scrounged in the streets. You know, they weren't beloved pets like we had. They were looked down on. Hence the insult even to this day, if you call someone a dog or a cur, you know, it's that idea. Lions were always symbols of nobility, symbols of power. Think about, you know, they always talk about Jesus as the Lion of Judah. This is what he's talking about. And he says, it's better to be a live dog, better to be alive and to be the scum of the earth, than to be the most popular person in the world and be dead. Because, well, the person who's alive still has time to change what they're doing and do things better. Whereas the dead person, all you can do is go through their pockets and look for loose change. It's a joke from a movie, sorry. You know, I like another way that was put. Not too long ago, the great English poet Robert Plant once said, yes, there are two paths you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the road you're on. And it's that recognition that we still have time when we're alive to change. And then the preacher takes it up to even more good news. He tells us the ultimate truth, which is this. This moment is your present. And I don't mean this moment is your present as in it's now. I mean it's your gift. It is your present. This moment is your present. Eat, drink, enjoy your work. Live each day as if it was your last, because it might be. The preacher introduces here the term shalek. Shalek is a Hebrew word that means a portion or a share. It's your allotment. You're not going to get anything out of life that you can take with you. There's not going to be any of the I forgot the word, yerot. There's not going to be any yerot, but there is shalek. Shalek is the portion. And this is what he says about us. He says, our share and not our profit is what's important. Our shalek, not our yitron. Here's another way of thinking of it. If I was to give you a Sonic card, good for $20, but it expires tonight at midnight, is it a worthless gift? Well, it will be tomorrow. But it's not a worthless gift now. If it's something that you use, it can bring you pleasure. It can make you happy. It can help you savor the moment and be the moment. You know, its value is only limited by time. If you don't use it, you lose it. We all have an expiration date. Use what you've been given before you lose what you've been given. Amen. And that is the big message. Life is a zero-sum game. You get nothing to take with you. But you do get to enjoy the here and the now. Don't waste your life on pursuits that fade with a mist, but enjoy the treasured moments that make each day, because this moment is your presence. One of the best ways I've ever heard that explained was in the movie Kung Fu Panda. Master Oogway, the turtle, the great leader, he explains that, he says, and I know you've heard this, but he says, yesterday is history, tomorrow's a mystery, but today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. I love that. We have been given this time to enjoy this time. A great Christian from the past, a man called Brother Lawrence, wrote a wonderful book that I highly recommend you read. He said, it's not necessary to have great things to do. I turn my little omelet in the pan for the love of God. It doesn't have to be a big and mighty thing. It just has to be a for God thing. Brother Lawrence also said the most holy and necessary practice in our spiritual life is the presence of God. That means finding constant pleasure in his divine company, speaking humbly and lovingly with him in all seasons, at every moment, without limiting the conversation in any way. In other words, you've got to go and clean up cat puke. Don't limit that and say, well, God's not going to be involved in this. You've got to go and clean up a nasty mess. You've got to go do something that is mind-numbingly boring. Do it for God. Don't turn God off and say, well, I'm going to go here. Do it for God. The ancient Chinese philosopher, Master Chuang, said something similar. I love this. He says, the wise man knows that it is better to sit on the banks of a remote mountain stream than to be emperor of the whole world. He also said, and I think this gets right to it, happiness is the absence of striving for happiness. When you are content with what you have, where you are, and what you are doing, you will have the joy of God that surpasses all understanding in your heart. It may not be happiness. Happiness is based on what happens to you. But joy is a gift from God. And when we focus on those things that we're doing and do them for godly reasons, we will have joy in our hearts. Robert Williamson, in his book, The Forgotten Books of the Bible, said, savor even the stupid, little, pointless moments, because that is your share in life. Now, does that mean that every moment's going to be great? If I'm focusing on God all the time, does that mean everything's going to be roses and rainbows and unicorns? No. Weren't you listening? Life is pointless and meaningless if all you do is look for reward and success. It's just not there. But you can savor every moment. The sour moments, the bitter moments, the salty moments. Yeah, they're not so great by themselves, but when you savor them for what they are, you will find that the sweet moments, you will find that the savory moments in life have just a little bit more flavor, and you can savor them a little bit deeper and enjoy a little bit more, because this moment is your present. Once again, Brother Lawrence reminds us, we ought not to be weary of doing little things for the love of God, who regards not the greatness of the work, but the love in which it is performed. Remember, this moment is your present. Don't worry about what you're going to take with you or what you're going to leave behind. Worry about where you are, what you're doing, and how God can be glorified in the here and the now. Because this moment is your present. Let's pray. Dear Lord, help us to stop dwelling in the past and all the memories of how wonderful things were, or all the memories of all the mistakes we've made. And help us to stay out of the future, worrying about all the things that can go wrong, that might go wrong. Instead, Lord, help us to be here, to be now, to be with you. Help us to be filled with joy to savor every moment for what it has, what it brings, and what it offers. Whether it's something we don't want, or whether it's something that we've been seeking. Help us to always look for you in the center, in the fringes, and all throughout. Your love changes us. Help us to be open to that change. These things we pray in the name of our risen Savior, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen. We're going to be singing our hymn of invitation now. If you are looking for a